do you think that you attracted the boos and stuff like that?
It's all from that one game, innit? You know, years ago, 2018 Grand Slam final, and obviously things happened between me and Gary, and then I went and won the tournament. The crowd started booing, even when I was lifting the trophy up, and it hasn't really stopped since.
Slam of Darts champion, ladies and gentlemen, the Iceman, Gerwyn Price.
Losing isn't an option for Gerwyn Price. He's admitted it himself. He's the worst loser you'll ever meet, and he makes no apologies for it.
I absolutely hate losing. People call me a bad loser. I'm the worst, so I agree to it. You know, I hate losing, and if someone's a good loser and they like losing, they don't deserve to play the game.
From the moment he stepped into professional darts, Price brought something the sport had never quite seen before: raw intensity, unfiltered emotion, a refusal to play by the unwritten rules. And almost instantly, the chaos began. Fans booed him relentlessly, players refused his handshake, security had to step in more than once. From backstage confrontations to on-stage meltdowns, Price has clashed with some of the biggest names in the sport, and these weren't just harmless rivalries. Some of them turned ugly. He's been fined, shouted at, shoved, and ignored. Through it all, he just kept winning. But behind every match, there's a moment that made headlines and enemies. These are the 7 players Gerwyn Price clashed with, and the chaos they left behind. It all started back in 2017, long before Gerwyn Price became a world champion, but not before he started collecting enemies. At the World Series finals in Auckland, Price faced off against Australia's fiery young talent, Cory Cadby. What was supposed to be a straightforward darts match turned into something much darker. Both players were emotional, intense, and completely unfiltered. Cadby didn't hold back his swagger, and Price met him head-on with aggressive stare-downs, thunderous fist pumps, and roaring reactions that pushed the atmosphere into hostile territory. The tension wasn't just on the scoreboard. It was between the players themselves. Every celebration felt personal. Every leg won came with a message aimed directly at the opponent. And when the match reached the deciding leg, the pressure finally boiled over. Cadby edged it 10-9, but the real headline wasn't the final score. It was the bad blood. No handshake. No respect. Just 2 rising stars already, making it crystal clear they weren't here to make friends. This was just the beginning, and the next clash would explode on a much bigger stage, with far more serious consequences. By 2018, Gerwyn Price had made it abundantly clear he wasn't interested in playing by darts' unwritten rules. But when he met Gary Anderson in the Grand Slam final, everything boiled over in spectacular fashion. It started small enough. Price celebrated aggressively after key legs, yelling, flexing, and invading Anderson's space on the ockey. But it didn't stop there. The longer the match went on, the more intense and deliberate his actions became. At one point, Price walked straight across the stage after a shot, stopping right near Anderson in what appeared to be a clear act of intimidation. Anderson, a 2-time world champion known for his usually cool demeanor, tried to stay focused, but you could see it wearing on him. The two exchanged words. There were visible shoulder bumps. The crowd turned restless, unsure whether they were watching a darts match or something closer to a boxing weigh-in. Price eventually won the final 16-13, claiming his first major title. But the PDC wasn't celebrating. Instead, they issued a record fine of £21,500, citing bringing the sport into disrepute. Price was also handed a suspended 3-month ban, a serious warning that his behaviour was crossing lines. Anderson received just a formal warning for his part in the confrontation. The darts world was completely divided. Some called it passion and competitive fire. Others called it pure gamesmanship and a deliberate attempt to destabilise an opponent. But either way, the message was absolutely clear. Gerwyn Price was now officially the villain of darts, and he didn't seem to mind one bit. In fact, for Price, the boos were just fuel for the fire. 1 year later, the drama continued. This time in the Premier League against Daryl Gurney. Live in Sheffield in front of thousands. The match ended in a draw, but it was what happened after the final dart that made headlines and shocked viewers watching at home. As the players approached for what should have been a routine handshake, Gurney didn't offer his hand in the traditional way. Instead, he grabbed Price's arm, pulled him in forcefully, and muttered something under his breath that clearly wasn't friendly. Price, never one to back down from confrontation, snapped back immediately. Cameras caught the moment their faces locked, jaws tight, neither willing to walk away first or show any sign of backing down. Then came a sudden jolt that changed everything. Gurney gave Price a shove, not hard enough to cause injury but forceful enough to make his anger unmistakable. Security and officials had to step between them as tensions flared in front of a stunned live audience. No punches were thrown, but the body language said everything. This wasn't banter between competitors. This was a genuine grudge, and for viewers watching at home, it felt like a line had been crossed in what was supposed to be a gentleman's game. After the match, both players refused to comment on what had been said or what had triggered the confrontation. The PDC didn't hand out any penalties, perhaps hoping the incident would fade from memory. But fans were quick to pick sides. For Gurney, it was about respect and defending himself against what he saw as deliberate provocation. For Price, it was just another case of a rival cracking under pressure when faced with his intensity. Either way, one thing was absolutely certain. This feud wasn't over, and it wouldn't stay confined to the stage. By the time the 2020 World Championship rolled around, Gerwyn Price wasn't just disliked anymore, he was actively booed in every venue he entered. And in the semi-final, against Peter Wright, things reached a genuine breaking point. From the very first leg, the tension was impossible to ignore. Wright gave Price a light tap on the arm at the ockey, a subtle gesture that clearly got under Price's skin in a major way. What followed was pure emotional warfare played out in front of millions. Every time Price hit a big score or took a leg, he celebrated like he'd won the entire tournament, roaring, pumping his fists, getting louder and more theatrical with every single shot. Wright stayed composed on the surface, but the match felt less like a semi-final and more like a personal standoff. Wright eventually won 6-3, dominating the later sets as Price seemed to lose focus entirely. But it was the ending that really made headlines across the darts world. Price walked off without a handshake, a rare break from darts tradition that shocked commentators and fans alike. He later posted a public apology on social media, admitting he let the moment get the better of him and that he should have handled it differently. But apologies or not, the crowd didn't forget what they'd witnessed, and neither did Wright. The rivalry was locked in permanently, and Price's image as darts villain grew even louder. And in his very next championship run, the fireworks came roaring back, this time with a player who wasn't afraid to fire back with equal intensity. If anyone was going to meet Price's energy head-on without backing down, it was Kim Huybrechts. Their third-round clash at the 2021 World Championship was tense from the opening throw, but when things got close, it turned downright hostile. The match went the full distance, locked at 3-3 in sets, tied deep into the deciding leg, with everything on the line. After landing a clutch shot that put him ahead, Price exploded in celebration with his trademark roar. Huybrechts immediately took issue with what he saw as excessive theatrics, walking toward Price and exchanging words mid-match. The two squared up at the ockey in a moment of pure confrontation. Referee Kirk Bevins stepped in between them to diffuse the tension before it could turn physical, his body language making clear this was serious. You could see it in their eyes. This wasn't just about darts anymore. This was personal. Price ended up winning the match in sudden death, but the moment was bigger than the result. When asked about it afterward, Price didn't back down or apologise. His response was classic Iceman.
What was that beef about on stage, Ger?
Oh, no, nothing. I mean, a couple of times he walked back and give it large as I'm going to throw, and I did it back to him. And, you know, I just said to him, I said, well, that's 1-1. So if you're going to do it to me and I'll do it to you, it's good enough to give, it's good enough to get.
If you're doing it to me, I'll do it to you. It was proof that the deeper he got into the sport and the more success he achieved, the deeper the grudges became. But nothing could prepare fans for the bizarre moment that came next. A match where Price wasn't fighting another player. He was fighting the crowd itself. The 2023 World Championship quarter-final should have been about darts and advancing to the semi-finals, but thanks to the crowd at Alexandra Palace, it became something else entirely, and Gerwyn Price decided he'd had enough. Facing Gabriel Clemens, Price was already on edge from the moment he walked through the tunnel. The boos started the instant he appeared on stage, and they didn't stop, not for a single throw. Every double he missed was cheered like a victory. Every treble he hit was booed like a mistake. Down 3-1 in sets and clearly rattled, Price disappeared during the mid-match break. When he came back out, the arena fell silent for a moment, then burst into a mixture of laughter and complete shock. Price was wearing ear defenders, not earbuds or noise-cancelling headphones like some players use. Actual industrial-grade hearing protection, the kind you'd wear at a construction site, on the biggest stage in darts. He didn't stop there. After winning a leg, Price turned directly to the crowd and mocked them, cupping his ear with his hand like a footballer silencing away fans. But the atmosphere only got nastier and more toxic. Clemens stayed locked in, calm, focused, and clinical. He won 4 straight sets, beating Price 5-1, and became the first German player to ever reach the semi-finals of the World Championship. Price didn't just lose the match. He lost complete control of the moment and his emotions. Afterward, he admitted he felt completely uncomfortable on stage, and even hinted he might not return to Alexandra Palace again. Fans had never seen anything like it. It was strange, emotional, divisive, and completely unforgettable. Because Gerwyn Price didn't just lose to Gabriel Clemens that night, he lost to the noise. If Gerwyn Price has a long-term nemesis in darts, it's absolutely Daryl Gurney. And in 2025, their rivalry reached yet another boiling point at the World Matchplay in Blackpool. After Price beat Gurney 10-7 in what should have been a straightforward victory, things seemed to end normally at first. Then came the handshake. The grip was tight, way too tight. Words were exchanged, their faces close together. Gurney's body language said it all. This wasn't over. Not even close. And it wasn't. Moments later, during Price's post-match interview with the media, Gurney stormed toward him backstage, yelling and visibly furious. Security had to physically hold Gurney back as he tried to get in Price's face for a second confrontation. Cameras caught part of the chaotic scene before the PDC quickly cut the feed and immediately blocked all media questions related to the incident. The story exploded online within minutes, with fans and commentators debating what could have been said. No suspensions were handed down by the darts authorities, but the message was loud and absolutely clear. Some rivalries don't cool down over time, they just wait to explode again with even more intensity. And Gerwyn Price, he walked out like nothing had happened, conducting his interviews and moving on. Business as usual for the Iceman. Some darts rivalries are built carefully over years of matches and mounting tension. Others explode in seconds without warning. That was exactly the case with Adrian Lewis at the 2022 Czech Darts Open. Lewis beat Price 6-3 in a solid performance. It was a good win, and there was absolutely no sign of bad blood between them during the match. No heated exchanges, no controversial moments, nothing unusual at all, until the very end. As Price turned to exit the stage after shaking hands with the referee, Lewis walked up behind him and gave him what looked like a friendly bear hug, a gesture of mutual respect between two former world champions. Wrong move. Price immediately spun around, visibly angry and caught off guard. He pointed straight at Lewis, refused the traditional handshake completely, and stormed off without a single word. The crowd buzzed with confusion. Something had just happened, but no one in the arena knew exactly what. Referee Russ Bray had to step between them as Lewis shrugged, either confused by the reaction or possibly mocking Price's anger. Backstage, the fireworks continued. Lewis later tweeted that Price had disrespected him and the fans, calling him a nobody in what felt like a calculated insult. According to Lewis, Price had also made a comment about his weight during the confrontation. It was unexpected, it was nasty, and it proved something important about Gerwyn Price. With him, you don't need years of built-up rivalry or a history of confrontations. All it takes is one moment, one perceived slight, and the chaos begins. Across 8 years and 8 different players, Gerwyn Price has built something few athletes in any sport ever managed to achieve. A legacy fueled equally by undeniable talent and constant tension. He doesn't just beat opponents with superior skill and precision. He rattles them, taunts them, and sometimes completely ignites them into losing their composure. From silent treatments and refused handshakes to shouting matches and full-blown security interventions, every single time he steps on stage, you can feel it in the air. Something could happen at any moment. The atmosphere changes when Price walks through that tunnel. Some say he's arrogant, a poor sport who takes things too far. Others say he's just passionate, a competitor who refuses to hide his emotions in a sport that's often too polite. But love him or hate him, and there's no middle ground with Gerwyn Price. One thing's for absolutely certain: he doesn't play safe. He doesn't play for applause. He plays to win, and he plays to get inside your head. And that's exactly why the world can't stop watching him, booing him, arguing about him, and tuning in every single time he picks up a dart.